the Spotrac Podcast, talking sports contracts, the salary cap, and business of sports.
Welcome to the Spotrac.com podcast. I'm Kevin Sylvester, along with Paul Peck and the founder of Spotrac.com, Mike Giannetti, who cannot get away from NFL free agency, even though you want.
Why would you want to?
Well, we did last week with baseball and some snow. By the way, Yankees yesterday.
Yeah.
The snow. I mean, snowed out. It's like my high school games. Like you couldn't start your high school season because of snow back in the Finger Lakes. But anyways, we can't get away from NFL free agency because you have at Spotrac.com, and I love the picture of Ndamukong Suh on there. I'll hold that up for the audience.
That's his reaction to being a Dolphin for that many years.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah,
although I like the throwback Dolphin uniform that he's wearing.
Yes, I love the throwback.
Right? The new ones are terrible. Go back to the old flipper and those colors.
That's got a great caption it yourself contest possibility there.
Yes.
Right? Like, why did I sign here in Miami? Oh, yeah, I know why. A gazillion
$20 million
dollars.
a year, right?
Right.
That's a picture of a Ndamukong. Oof. Right? What he's saying
Right.
there.
So-
but you have winners, losers, and guaranteed truths in this article. And I like how you have the fake and real totals. Let's talk about that first, the fake and real totals.
Yeah, so basically what we're doing is we're tracking every dollar here in terms of the total value of these contracts that come in, and then obviously we break it down, in terms of how they're structured for guaranteed money, and then the real metric that we've been talking about here, the past few weeks, which is the guaranteed money at signing. The upfront, definitely going to have it guaranteed money. So when you're reading the article and you're looking at the free agent tracker on Spotrac, that's really the metric to take a look at. And what we've done is basically gone position by position here and sort of laid out how much of that total value is actually guaranteed up front. And to be frank, it's a good number. It's gotten a lot better over the last 3 years. It's a 12% increase since 2015. So nuts and bolts, we're talking about 46% of $2.4 billion is actually guaranteed at signing.
That seems low to me, though.
It's low. It's low in
But it's the
retrospect,
NFL.
But we're talking about 34%, 3 years ago. So
right.
It's getting better. Yes, there are some reasons why, and we'll kind of go through that.
Well,
but
and that's what, when I look at the list, if the initial question is why is guaranteed money up, the answer is the same as when you look at the list of positions that get the most guaranteed money.
It is, but there's a reason those are higher as well, right? It's not just because Kirk Cousins hit the market and other quarterbacks, followed him and sort of did what he did. What happened is these prominent positions we're talking about, defensive tackles, wide receivers, quarterbacks, they're at or around 50%, quarterbacks at 72%, by the way. They're there because everybody sort of bought into the same condition, and the condition is this: we want to maximize our guaranteed money, and to do so, we have to sign smaller contracts. We have to sign 3-year deals, not 5- and 6-year deals. We have to give the team less room to spread out the money, and we need to make it more compact because we know they're not going to guarantee any money in a 4th year. It's never happened. It's not going to happen. Hopefully it will start to happen. That is the next piece to this puzzle. But as of right now, we're talking about 2 to 3 years fully guaranteed at signing for a lot of these major positions. And really, a lot of these positions followed suit. Like I said, Kirk Cousins was the breadwinner with the 100%, $84 million. But we've made note of a lot of players here who just kind of sort of followed the structure.
I'm going to let you guys both think about this. Maybe this is what we'll answer on the
get paid
post
to
show.
think on this, man.
Is there
Homework?
a position in any other sport that is as impactful on the field and in the negotiating room than quarterback is in the NFL? Don't answer it yet. We'll
just
answer
NFL?
it later. In any other sport,
I think left-handed starting pitcher is a
Yes.
close
I was gonna say
comparison.
starting pitcher.
Left-handed starting pitcher.
but not as impactful because that's only once every 5 days.
Watch the World Series, my friend.
I don't know.
Quarterback is every play.
You're probably right.
Every
You're
play.
probably right.
And when I look at these numbers, I'm like, well, of course the quarterbacks are 30% higher on average in guaranteed salary than any other. Because there aren't enough of them. If you don't have one, you're desperate for one. And if you have a good one, you're desperate to keep him.
I'd say 10 years ago I'd say goaltender in hockey, but
Not
I will
anymore,
not say
though.
it anymore.
But yes,
No.
it used to be. You're right.
way.
That was the one thing that popped into my head when I was trying to answer my own question was I was thinking goaltender in hockey. But, I would
It's become the puck-moving defenseman now.
Yeah, but quarterback is such an anomaly in everything it does and everything it impacts in football.
Well, to your point, a lot of the names on this list, this free agent list, are not starting quarterbacks. So it's not like only starting quarterbacks got major guaranteed money. These backups, look at Drew Stanton got a lot of money. Chase Daniel got a lot of money
because
of
God forbid your starting one gets hurt, you better be covered. And Nick Foles changed all that for every team.
Changed everything. Yeah, you're seeing a lot of guys who are second and third in the depth chart right now with decent contracts.
The interesting thing to me is the guaranteed money at signing for quarterback, right? So guaranteed money at signing means you're exactly what it means.
Definitely no matter what.
Yeah, no matter what. You quit, cut, signed, injured, whatever.
Yep.
They don't like you. This is what you're getting. In 4 years, it went up, it went down, and then it just shot up astronomically at quarterback, right? It was 45% in 2015, up to 49% in 16, down to 43%. Is that because there wasn't as many free agent quarterbacks?
Probably, right?
There almost never is a legitimate starting quarterback on the market.
So we've had one this year, and that's why that number is huge.
So back to my point, what that's saying is, let's say the last 3 years didn't have a legitimate starting quarterback. That means backups got 50% of their contracts guaranteed. Is what that means. So that's what I mean. It's to Paul's point, it's a powerful position, maybe the most powerful in sports, and it was the benchmark for the rest of the free agent market this year.
I want to go back to my opening statement about 46% seemed low to me. If I were the NFLPA, I'd be looking at that percentage and saying, okay, we have all these celebrations of these huge contracts, but not even half of that money's guaranteed.
Yep.
That's a flaw in the system. The salary, the money they use to pay salaries is guaranteed.
It's not a flaw. It depends on your perspective. It's the system.
Yeah.
The system is what it's always been, that contracts are not guaranteed in the NFL. From a player and a union perspective, it's a flaw.
Okay.
From an owner perspective, it's a benefit.
Well, let's bring it down to everybody's regular work life, right? For those who are taking a break from lunch right now, watching this on Periscope or listening to this right now on your drive to or from work. And if you went in and took a new job and said, hey, I just signed an employment contract to go work for Google for 5 years, and they're going to pay me $200,000 a year. It's $1 million. Wow, fantastic. Well, it's really not $1 million. I'm only guaranteed 2.5 years of that. Really? Well, why would you jump for that? So that's what I'm saying. Like you put the headlines in this huge contract, but the reality is, and that's what's great about Spotrac, gives you the reality in NFL contracts. The reality is it's only a 2-year deal or a 3-year deal.
So isn't the discussion also? I mean, obviously we kind of know why this has happened, right? The salary cap sort of took contracts and made them fluffy, right? It made them silly. It made teams put out half a contract that doesn't really exist.
I'm a $100 million man, but you're not really.
Yeah, not really.
Yeah.
So isn't the more interesting point to look at, though, that the positions that are getting almost the least amount of guaranteed money are maybe the most violent positions? I mean, we're talking about safeties, running backs,
which means
even cornerbacks,
which
took
means
a hit
injury
this year.
prone and interchangeable.
Yeah. So their teams are more and more and more and more and more afraid to put guaranteed money at these positions. But those are the positions that need it the most. I mean, those are the guys who are going to, the blue collar guys going to work every day, getting their helmets smashed in.
But don't forget, there's way more players that want to be in the NFL than there are jobs in the league.
That's right. They're replaceable, and they've seen that over the past 5 years.
Well, running back is fascinating when you say that.
Yep.
26% last year, 26.6% guaranteed last year. This year, 37%. Due to some fluffy contracts.
Fluff, yeah.
As you called it.
That's the word of the year.
But that is one of the lowest, right? I mean, running back's one of the lowest guaranteed percentages out there. Outside linebackers the lowest, and running back it's the second lowest, and those two collide a lot.
Yeah, the outside linebacker's there, though, because no good outside linebacker ever hits free agency. It just doesn't happen. I mean, if you're an elite...
because it's not that it isn't a valuable position. It is.
No, if you can rush the passer, you don't make it to March. So that's just kind of the way that works. So you're never going to see big numbers in terms of free agency with defensive ends or outside linebackers. If you're there, there's a reason you're there, and your guaranteed money will generally reflect that. So... the running back it's been up and down in terms of how this guaranteed percentage has fluctuated a little bit, but it's the bottom of the barrel in terms of the positional breakdown across the league right now.
All right, every contract has an out, right?
Yeah.
An out clause where that money's not guaranteed, and you have notable potential outs here. And Tremaine Johnson leads the league in the notable potential out.
Yeah, he put together a massive contract with the Jets. He went back-to-back franchise tags with the Rams, so he's already cashed in. It's a similar situation to Kirk Cousins. And he went $72.5 million with the Jets, but really it's a 3-year, $45 million deal. And that's sort of the path we've taken here. We've kind of coined this phrase potential out, and you'll see that across all the player pages and the free agent tracker and things like that on Spotrac. Well, basically what that means is kind of what you're talking about, Kevin. There's no $100 million contract in the NFL. Really, it's a $50 million contract. Well, we're actually showing what that really part of the contract is, right? So there's a reported contract, there's a potential out contract. There's no contract with a potential out in free agency over 3 years. It's just how it is. There's no 4th-year guarantee in terms of guaranteed money at signing. So you're going to see any 5-year contract is generally a 3. Some of them are 2s. I mean, some of them are really fluffy in terms of how they're structured up front. Generally, a 4-year contract is a 2-year contract. 3-year contract could be a 1-year contract. So when you're looking at a free agent tracker, that right column is really interesting to see. When the team can get out of this, because in a lot of cases, it's a 1-year deal. It's a 1-year decently cash flow deal, and you might be seeing this guy in the free agent market again next year. So that's the reality of how the money is structured, how the cash flow is set up, and that's just sort of the best way to look at it right now.
There's 2 contracts and there's really one that looks mind-blowing to me. The Teddy Bridgewater deal.
Yeah. So I threw a tweet out the second I found the breakdown for that, and really what could happen as we've sort of seen the Jets progress here. I mean, the big trade up and where they're sitting for a quarterback in terms of the draft next month. This could be a $500,000 get out deal in terms of Teddy Bridgewater.
Never even makes it the training camp deal.
He gets his signing bonus. Nothing else is guaranteed right now with that bonus. They could cut him at any point in time. Yeah, maybe they'll give him a look in training camp. And sort of see where he fits with the rest of their competition. But they've got Josh McCown on $10 million guaranteed. 100%
he's there
for this
to
year.
mentor the quarterback. So there's 2 quarterbacks. Are they going to keep a third one?
They've got Christian Hackenberg. They've got Bryce Petty.
Yeah, those guys I think
and then
are
they've
gone.
got this first-round pick.
Right. So why would the Jets do it? Why would Bridgewater
do it?
Well, that was the other. Why would Bridgewater do it?
It had to have been the best offer available. It had to have been.
And that's because nobody really knows if he's the same player anymore.
Yeah, it's interesting, but that's a situation where he may be not $6 million, but $500,000, and not even make it.
Would he have been better off not signing anywhere and just waiting to see what shakes out in OTAs and training camps and find a team that is desperate?
I think waiting at least a little longer would have been beneficial, because we're going to talk about it a little later, but I think one of the losers in free agency, spoiler alert, is A.J. McCarron, a guy who signed right here in Buffalo. I don't think he had a choice but to wait, but if Teddy Bridgewater is still available, I think that's an interesting situation with those 2 available, even heading towards the draft because teams aren't going to get what they want.
Right. Teddy might have been better off waiting to see which team gets nosed out of the quarterback position.
Right.
Or he gets $500,000. Wait, and the upsides he gets $6 million, or he gets a new team.
Yeah.
So I think you look at it that way. Hey, Teddy, look at it. It's not great out there. I can get you $500,000 right now.
And at least you have a team for now. Or his agent could go after they draft a quarterback and go, can you release my guy? He isn't going to make this team. Can you release him?
They could trade him and get one of those picks back.
Maybe
and
the Jets are smarter than all of us, and they did it to turn around and get a draft pick for him.
That doesn't sound like the Jets, though.
What did you say? How many times has anybody ever said that?
That's right. Yeah. Sorry, Jets fans. All right.
All right. So now winners and losers, and you already gave us a preview, and you'll get more into that. But now that free agency is completely, pretty much settled down, Mike, you've had the chance to take a step back and look at what every team did and decide which teams were the free agency winners and losers based on contracts. So start with the winners.
Yeah. So the big winner that we put together is actually a 2-pack. It's the Bears and the Chiefs, because they're really on similar paths here, right? They both kind of flew up the draft board last year, picked the quarterback. Neither of them really needed one at that point, right? They had Alex Smith, they had newly signed Mike Glennon, and they both kind of got their guy last year, and then put themselves in a position to make a list of players they needed to release, make a list of positions they wanted to fill this year, and they've done that. And it's really starts with offensive weapons. Obviously, the Chiefs made a big splash in free agency, bringing in Sammy Watkins on a basically 2-year fully guaranteed deal. And the Bears kind of went the other way. They went a little bit riskier with Allen Robinson, who's got a ton of upside, but is coming off a nasty injury. And then they also brought in Trey Burton, arguably the best tight end available. So, look, there's big weapons in terms of those offenses. They've both got their young quarterbacks in place, so they're on the path to sort of get to the point where they're going to be cheap in the right positions and in a window where they can, maybe a 3-year window where they can go and win right now. So, that's a win in terms of how their process sort of played out over the past 18 months. Another win, a more interesting win. I've got Le'Veon Bell on this list, and really it's about what we've already talked about.
On first glance, you would think because he hasn't gotten the guaranteed money that he so desperately wants, you'd think he'd be on the loser list.
That's right. And I think he was. Le'Veon Bell's a big loser, right? But I think over the past 2 years he has been, because we didn't really know. We were sort of hoping and thinking that Le'Veon Bell was gonna break this market back in, right? It was going to be his contract was going to reset things, and running backs could make their money from there. It's not happening. There's no talk about Pittsburgh doing it. I don't think Pittsburgh should do it at this point. And when you put the numbers on paper like I've done here, Le'Veon Bell is making a heck of a lot of money with this $14.5 million franchise tag. Look, we saw 6 starting running backs from last year. 2 of them were one of the highest paid running backs, just flat out released. Most of them have found work on cheap deals. Some of them haven't. I mean, there's still some really nice names on the available list for running backs right now. But what's happened is, because those guys are off the board, and because a ton of teams have taken basically veteran minimums for a lot of these running backs, the average running back salary right now is $2.5 million. So he's making $14.5 million in 2018. So right. When you're talking about a situation, I've even got it here. No running back is even guaranteed $14.5 million on their entire contract from free agency this year. I mean, that's how far it's gone.
He'd be hard pressed to find a 2-year deal to pay him.
Yeah, you're talking about a total compensation package of guaranteed money. He's maxing out on that right now with 1 year. So
he's got to get over. He's got to stop complaining and get over the fact that the best thing for him may be the franchise tag. Because if he has the kind of year that he should, then he goes around and does it again next year.
Yeah, he's going to be hard pressed to find $15 million guaranteed on the market anywhere right now, just because of how things have shaken out. There's no other running back. Look at is he 80% better than any running back in the league? You'd be hard pressed to find anybody to say that, because that's where he is in terms of his compensation right now. So he's a winner right now.
You call AJ McCarron a loser?
I do. Yeah.
Is that because there was a thought that he was ready to step into a starting role and that didn't happen, or is there another reason?
Yeah, that is the thinking. The thinking is, he sort of put himself on this market, right? I mean, he went and filed a grievance and got himself unrestricted free agency in a quarterback-heavy market, which is arguably not a good idea, but he put himself on this list, which means he thinks he's ready, which means his agent thinks he's ready, which means teams thought he was ready, and he was sort of the last man standing, like we just kind of talked about. And he went to a team that needed a quarterback, so it's not like he's going to a backup position. He is probably the week 1 starter in Buffalo. I think all signs point to that, regardless of what the Bills do in the next couple of weeks.
Week 5, maybe not so much.
Yeah, we'll readdress that. But look, he's on a 1-year, $5 million deal. I mean, that's it. So he went from a rookie contract, a mid-round rookie contract, to $5 million.
So he got $5 million instead of waiting a year, as you suggested maybe he should have.
Yeah.
He gets 1 year, $5 million. Maybe he starts 12 games. Maybe he starts 2. But either way, he can go find the next team next year that needs a starting quarterback and maybe put himself there, because there won't be a Kirk Cousins on the market next year.
There won't. But here's why I still have him as a loser right now, because of what you just said. Is he even going to get 4 weeks in a Buffalo uniform to be a starter? Is there going to be a showcase for him? You know what I mean? Are people going to go off training camp video to sign him to a nice contract next year to be their quasi-starting quarterback?
No. They didn't go off 4 games, including a playoff game this time.
I think it says a lot for A.J. McCarron that the Bengals are still rolling with Andy Dalton. They've had 2 years to get out of that contract with almost no dead cap, and they didn't, which means that A.J. McCarron isn't Andy Dalton.
And
if he's not Andy Dalton, Andy Dalton's not Aaron Rodgers. Let's be honest.
Hey, listen, Andy Dalton's a savior in Buffalo.
Yeah. The Bengals-Bills relationship has really gotten a little awkward.
Yes,
hasn't it?
It has.
It's kind of everywhere right now. So
well, and again, I know that in an interview that with the media that AJ McCarron did, he was asked if he asked the Bills whether they're going to draft a quarterback, and he said no. And I understand that. That's not how guys think. They know what's going on. Their agent knows, but AJ McCarron can't worry about that. He's got to worry about himself, and if he's the best quarterback, he'll play as long as he can until the inevitable happens. So I think sometimes fans think that that these guys all are keeping up on every piece of news and tidbit about every other team. They're really not. They have faith in their own ability, or they have faith in their own ability to say, you know what, if it isn't in Buffalo, it'll be somewhere else.
Okay, I'm going to skip over the Rams because they are very obviously a winner this offseason, right? I mean, you can name 5 names that are all really good moves.
Assuming Talib and Peters don't entirely shred their team culture.
I think it goes without saying.
Nick Ndamukong Suh, for that matter.
Yeah, maybe not the highest character players in the league, but, man, they brought in some monsters in terms of that defense. So they're a winner. We don't need to talk about that. Let's talk about the Dolphins because we've sort of alluded to them a couple of times here already. I'm confused on the Miami Dolphins, and I don't know if you guys are with me on this. They're in that position where they started to rip the Band-Aid off, and maybe they stopped halfway through.
That's exactly what I was thinking. Adam Gase is trying to make changes there, but they have not gone all in on that.
Which doesn't make any sense, right? Because if you're going to do it, you've got to do it this year. Right, that's just sort of how the AFC East is rounding out. I mean, we don't know how many years Tom Brady's got left. The Bills appear to be ramping up. The Jets are, I think, close. They're probably parallel with the Bills right now in terms of their process. I don't think the Dolphins have a process, and that's what scares me. Is I think they threw Jarvis Landry out the door, maybe without a backup plan, because I don't think Danny Amendola is a backup plan.
No.
He's not anywhere the player in Miami that he was in New England.
Right. They're getting older. Yeah, they're getting cheaper. I mean, they've shed some cap in terms of getting themselves prepared. But then they went and restructured Ryan Tannehill in a week when I thought they might release him.
Yes, yeah.
So
it's interesting. They did what actually the Buffalo Bills sort of did last season. They got rid of their
Tyrod Taylor. Yes.
They got rid of their best players,
yes,
if you will, and the Bills moved on from their quarterback. And I say their best players, highest drafted players, Marcel Darius and Sammy Watkins. You look at Ndamukong Suh and Jarvis Landry, and then even trading Ajayi last year during the season. You're like, okay, they're rebuilding here. And the Bills moved on from Tyrod Taylor. And Tannehill, you had to restructure him. I'm with you.
I think
he's okay, but I think he's a backup.
I think the Tannehill move was really the one that set me over the edge here because up until that point, the Bills were a perfect comp for them. They were. It was a culture change. It wasn't a rebuild. It wasn't we're not trying to take everything down and start from scratch like the Browns have been doing for 30 years. It was clearly a culture change. They brought in some good. I mean, literally in my article I talk about there is a reaction to every action. You lost a wide receiver, you got a wide receiver. You lost a defensive end, you got a defensive end. You lost a center, you got a center. So they had a plan in place in terms of replacing their moves, but then they pushed more dead cap into Ryan Tannehill next year, which makes absolutely no sense.
You know what?
Cost them $13 million to cut him next year.
You know what my read between the lines on that is? Ownership is not all in on a gut job like has been in other places that they want the fan base may not be ready to accept it. They don't want to anger the fan base. They have this fine tradition of the 72 Dolphins that I still think hangs over the head of that franchise. That what it tells me is that Adam Gase wanted to go a lot farther but wasn't allowed to.
Here's what scares me, and you just hit the nail on the head. And Kevin and I have talked about this over the past couple of weeks. Adam Gase is definitely fighting for his job right now, too. Yes. So what happens in 12 months when they've got an entirely new coaching regime and they've got players that they don't want but cost a lot to get rid of because they sort of rebuilt this year but didn't really rebuild? I just think if I'm in Miami right now, I am ripping that Band-Aid off. I'm going all in on anybody who isn't going to be here for 2-3 years. They're gone. They've got to go because they're in a position where they could use the cap. They need to be acquiring cap for next year when they're going to be looking to build more in terms of their draft and their free agency. That's just they're a puzzling team in terms of what they've done in the last 4 weeks for me.
All right, there's still more time for the Miami Dolphins.
Yeah, it's early.
It's early.
It's baseball season.
All right, we're gonna transition. We're gonna talk some hockey, then we're gonna come back to football in a little bit.
Yes,
that sounds right. All right, so we're gonna talk about some hockey in our contract of the week.
Time now for the contract of the week.
All right, contract of the week and hockey. 2 guys announced their retirement, and their careers are parallel because, frankly, they don't know how to exist without being parallel, right?
That's right.
It's
such an incredibly unique situation.
How do those guys even date? Right? I mean, I'm talking about the Sedin brothers in Vancouver, which is such a – if you ever want to look at the backstory and how – Brian Burke got the Sedins.
Yeah, actually tell the story. I think it's really interesting.
Well,
Kevin.
it's pretty. You're assuming I remember the whole story. Yeah. But he crafted some trades to get back-to-back picks in the draft to take the brothers. Everybody knew he wanted to get both of the brothers, and he knew he had to do it because to get them to come over, he'd have to get them both.
Right. It was about getting them to sign, right?
Yes.
I mean, in order to get one to sign, you had to get them both, and he ended up getting them number 2 and number 3 overall in 1999.
It was pretty amazing how all the machinations he went through to get back-to-back selections, which you could never do now in the National Hockey League, because it's all lottery protected, whatever. But so he has the Sedins, when they have to sign, their money's exactly the same over their careers. They've always signed the exact same contract. Dollar
That's
for
amazing.
dollar.
Yeah.
And they've played together.
17 seasons.
They could still play. They're 36 years old.
Yeah.
They could still go. I just think Vancouver's not very good anymore.
Yeah,
I think Vancouver needs to move on from then to rebuild.
I think Vancouver's probably made the decision here for them, and they've agreed to it. And I think it's interesting to see, what happens.
Well, they can't play. They're going to play. I think they'll play in Sweden.
You think so?
Because they can play together instead of one team in the NHL says, "I want Henrik, I don't want Daniel." They go back to Europe, take less money, back home, play together.
Exactly, and they'll play internationally for Sweden as long as they can in the Olympics and in World Championships.
All right, so I'll give you guys this. I don't know if you're looking if you're cheating right now, but Kevin, I don't think you are. Ready?
Okay.
So 17 seasons, identical money, right? NHL contract started in year 2000.
Okay.
Career earnings on Daniel and Henrik Sedin.
2000. So
That they had to be in the range of.
well, hang on. He asked me.
All
He
right,
didn't ask
go
you.
ahead.
I'll give you how
I'm
many
trying to help
contracts
you.
Well, see, had about 2000. I'm trying to think of the. No, that was after they were paying guys huge money in New York. I'm thinking of Yager when he got like $40 million.
Yep.
But they would have been rookies, so they're on their rookie deals.
4 contracts fully completed.
Their last contract I know was big. They're each getting like $7 or $8 million a year.
Uh-huh.
I'm going to say they're like, I'll put them at $70 million each. Close.
$71 million.
Oh, all right.
$71 million.
well done.
So, a nice baseball
71.
contract.
You know what? Frankly, they could probably. I was thinking 80, but the way you phrased it, I felt it would have been lower.
Yeah.
So, and they took discounts to stay together.
Well, that's
right.
right. That's what we're talking about here. Yeah, none of them could have ever maxed out.
Henrik Sedin, scored more goals. Daniel scored, or maybe I have it backwards.
No, I think Henrik would
Daniel
arguably
had
the
more
better
assists.
player, right?
Well, Daniel's more of an assist guy. If I have it, I got to look at their career numbers now. But if I remember it correctly, Henrik was the better. Well, yes, regarded as the better player because he'd score more. But Daniel was no slouch. And actually, Daniel. Matter of fact, I think Daniel has more power play goals. Tell me if that's right. Daniel might have more power play goals than Henrik.
All right,
but Henrik may have more goals.
While he's doing
overall.
that, Kevin, because we kind of talked about the whole process here with Brian Burke. Do you think he thinks it was worth it? Was it worth it?
Absolutely.
100%?
Yes, I do. To get 2 Hall of Fame players, yes.
Yeah.
And they're
Did it impede his roster at all?
Oh, it probably did early on. No question about it. Sure.
Yeah.
The Longo trade really killed the Canucks, in my opinion. But
go ahead, you guys keep going. I'm gonna write this down because I got each page up here.
All right.
So.
I'm just going to say I think Henrik Sedin has more goals and Daniel has more assists, but I think Daniel has more power play goals.
All right, hang on. I'm getting
But
there.
more assists overall.
I think the brother dynamic is really interesting. We've sort of talked about it before on here, and they exist across the other sports, but we'll never see a simultaneous parallel situation like this. This is unbelievable.
The telepathy that they had.
This is unbelievable.
Right. Okay.
They are within 50 points of each other.
Wow.
Career-wise.
Well, Henrik had an injury once, and Daniel kind of took over.
Well, let me
one
see.
of the years. I want to say Henrik had a concussion.
I'm looking at
or something.
career games now here, and I'm going to go back.
It's easy to get the two
time.
mixed up.
I'm a twin, so take it easy here.
All right, Henrik Sedin
made the finals once.
Henrik Sedin, 1,327 career games, 240 goals, 828 assists for 1,068 points.
Then I had that wrong.
Daniel, 1,303 career games, 391 goals, a lot more.
Wow.
647 assists, 1,038 career points.
Right.
Literally within 30 points of each other over that career.
That's
That's amazing.
That's
That's
a remarkable.
pretty profitable egg, isn't it?
Yes, I think.
I mean, I think that's what that's saying. That's a $144 million egg is what that is.
Split the egg. It was $144 million.
Yeah, it's really, really interesting. It's really been fun to kind of watch these guys over the years because, every time their contracts come up, I'm just waiting for, the press conference where they both are sitting there and they both announce the exact same terms, and that's just how it's going to be. So it's been really neat to follow.
I think it is cool that they're retiring rather than go to the free agent market to play for somebody else.
Yeah, I kind of hope that doesn't happen. I'm a little worried that might happen, that maybe Daniel gets picked up by the Penguins and,
Boy,
so we'll see if that happens.
That's the interesting thing. Will they take less, both of them,
Sure.
to go play in Pittsburgh, for example?
Sure.
At, $1 million each to win a cup.
Never know.
Double the amount of career power play goals for Daniel over Henrik.
Right. Okay. So I thought so.
So that's the final thing.
I didn't know the overall goals were
137 career power play goals for Daniel,
right.
61 for Henrik. But
Yeah.
Henrik was the assist guy. Henrik was the setup guy, right? He was the center. He was the guy who had the puck on his stick.
I'll tell you, Vancouver, one of the best places to call a game.
Yeah.
Like the press box, you were right over center ice. Great place to announce a game from. I'd say Vancouver and Montreal. Montreal's 1, Vancouver's 2.
Not so much Winnipeg.
Winnipeg is to all good people in Winnipeg. It's a nice, but you're back a little bit. Press box location was a little off, and they spelled my name wrong.
Sure, so it's bias.
That's that's the bias. But
right.
Listen, Montreal 1, Vancouver 2.
Yeah, what an incredible story, and probably not likely to be seen ever in our lifetime of two impactful brothers that spend their career
twins.
together.
These are twins.
Yeah.
Right? That spend their career together, and it's an amazing story.
Yeah.
I mean, okay, let's move. We're going to shift now back to football here to close things out. You want to talk about the New York Giants?
I do. Actually, just really some trades in general because, the rumor mill's really kicking up this time of year and, everybody knows everything, but nobody knows anything. And,
that's right. A report.
Take everything with a grain of salt. But, there's still quite a few really notable trade rumors out there. And I'm starting to put some dollars and cents to a few of them because – we talked last week a little bit about Odell Beckham because that was the hot topic and it still hasn't gone away, and maybe it's even gotten more productive in terms of the people who are reporting things now. But here's my take on it, and obviously with a grain of salt as well because there's plenty of time in the offseason to work with. But the Giants can't even afford their draft pool right now. I mean, the New York Giants do not have a lot of cap space, so they're looking to offload something, whether it's
is it
Beckham
Odell?
Jr.'s $9 million,
or do they have other
whether
options?
It's releasing or restructuring, or here's where I am. Look, the Giants have the number 2 pick, and obviously there's a lot of teams that want the number 2 pick, and that's been sort of the hot topic, and nobody kind of knows if the Giants are sitting on Saquon Barkley or sitting on Josh Rosen, or if they're going to trade that out and rebuild their draft. But there's some interesting situations to really consider, and really, we need to go back to December when Eli Manning was benched and they brought in a new regime, and all of a sudden Eli Manning is perfect again, right? He's the quarterback and everything's perfect and hunky-dory, and his 59%
on the field.
Yeah, his 59% completion percentage is just fine with people, and I would not count him out of this conversation. I would not count an Eli Manning trade out. No, I think he's tradable.
Tradable?
I think Eli Manning is still tradable. They did pay his roster bonus, so that's off the table.
You think that's contingent on them using the second pick on a quarterback or someone else?
I think they
Davis
could go
Webb,
in any
who
of
is the
8
guy
directions.
they have now.
Yeah, I think Davis Webb is certainly a name. I think they could certainly draft somebody. Even if let's say they do make a trade with, for instance, the Bills, that would give them the number 12 pick. They could still take a quarterback there.
True.
How much money do they save going from 2 to 12 in rookie cap?
Not a lot,
Putting
right?
me on the spot here.
But hang on. And then the second part of that is, but having 2 first-round picks this year, is that a wash? Going from 2 and having 12 and 22.
It saves them $3 million to go down to 12, but if they added 22, it'd be a wash.
Okay.
Yep.
Right.
So if the
the
Bills
only
gave
real
up both
benefit
first,
of getting out of the top 10 is the 4-year versus 5-year contracts, right?
Yeah, well, no, they're both existing, but that 5th-year option is cheaper outside of the top 10.
Okay.
So it's a situation where they'd save money the 5th year, but with a quarterback, that's moot because they're probably going to extend him anyway.
That's exactly what Giants fans want to hear. We're trading on the 2 pick because we're cheap.
Well, the question is,
but the draft picks you'd acquire would be quite the pool.
well, and here's the question about the Giants' intentions are
Yes.
do they think are they rebuilding or not? A lot of moves they've made, Nate Solder and some of the other moves have said that they don't think they're rebuilding, that they think they can win, which would lead you to think they keep Eli Manning, which would lead you to think they don't take a quarterback at number 2. But what you're telling me is maybe they are ready to dive into the rebuilding pool, which might mean either you trade out a number 2 or you take that quarterback at number 2, get rid of Eli and say, hey, we are ready to move to the next era.
I'm not even sure I'm saying rebuild. I think what I'm saying is their cap isn't even healthy enough right now to really continue as it is.
Okay.
So I think there's some kind of move coming. Obviously, I'm swinging big with Beckham Jr. and Eli Manning, and moving on from either of those guys might signify a rebuild, which means they would just go crazy from there. But they did bring in Ogletree. Look, they made some signings. I mean, they brought in,
paid Solder a lot of money.
I mean, they've got a situation where they really can't afford to rebuild because of the contracts that they've signed and the people they've traded for right now. I just think maybe Eli Manning could be upgraded. I don't think a lot of people would disagree with me based on the last couple of years.
I've said if these quarterbacks are as good as everybody's hyping them out to be,
which they probably aren't.
Just go with the F here, Paul.
Sorry.
And we'll end the podcast with this because it's my point. But we'll stay on Periscope.
Thanks, Winnipeg.
Yeah, thanks. Right. If these quarterbacks are as good as everybody says, how can the Giants pass up on their next quarterback at 2?
Because Saquon Barkley is perfect, Paul. Kevin.
No, I like that you're talking Paul, if you disagree with the point. All right. That's it for the Spotrac.com.
He's a running back, which thus makes him not perfect
Can
in
he
the
throw
NFL.
or not?
That's it for the Spotrac.com podcast. For Mike Giannetti, the founder of Spotrac.com, Paul Peck, I'm Kevin Sylvester. Thanks for listening.